And we're on to boss 4. I know, I can hear your overwhelming excitement, all 5 of you. First off, quick apology, I'm not the best at editing, and even by my standards, the editing in this video is terrible. We were doing a lot of talking because we were teaching. A few people have, well, newborns, wives, husbands, girlfriends. Someone's even got a pet hamster, which is crazy. But yeah, so there's a bit of editing. I've kept it all in the same area, but a lot of it is essentially us just standing around, which I've tried to cut out, and hopefully you will get the picture. Right, this is Foam Alley. We need 3 people with full Hasbro builds, or mostly in snare, to go to the right where there are 3 buttons that must be pressed, 2 of which are simultaneous. That will be displayed in another video. We don't worry about the enemies, we just run through, do some crazy stuff. The buttons are over there where you saw those people. There's a door up here which we have to shoot. Do not shoot it with a Scorpio, you will bug the door out. And then we do a mad race up top. However, while people are going up there, your 4th interactive key, wait for the cutscene, is here. So this is where you'll get your 4th key. The 5th key drops from the final boss upon beating her. There's nothing you've got special you've got to do or find it. It's just in a loot pile. But if you are ahead of the pack in the DPS, you run up here, and there is a switch just there on the left. It's timed. If you don't get there in time, you fail the event and you go back to the start. This is typically like a weird staging area where everyone sorts out their builds. There are a variety of roles, and I will go through them with you now. Now, typically as soon as you get here, people will start calling out all sorts of stuff. For me, personally, this is the order in which you sort it. The most important roles are Key Tank, Stagger Tank, and Healer. If you've got a good Key, Stagger, and Healer, they can carry this entire phase. I've literally been in the group that's done it before. You then have Left Rocket, which is also a DPS. A Right Rocket, which is also a DPS. These are normally reserved for people that are either lazy, looking at you, Helvin, or they're comfortable in what they've got to do, but not got all the big shiny builds for the roles. You then have Left and Right DPS. For the purpose of this video, I am taking over Right DPS, which is where most of the time, if you're in a new raid, is where they will put you, simply because it's pretty damn easy. And all you do is guard a door. That's literally it. You just sit there and watch a door. If you see a sniper come up, go sniper right, because you're on the right, or if you're on the left, you go sniper left. Really entertaining and fun. Now, I have, for those of you that can count, I have added in another one there for Headhunter ×2. That would put you at 9 players. Typically, if you're running Headhunters, you'll have 1 floating DPS, or you potentially, depending on how good your team is, everyone would be all the way back. I say 2 Headhunters because having 1 can actually lead to more harm than good, because they'll be missing their shots under a lot of pressure. They can't directly support the DPS. Saying that, Rise of Brutality, Thinking, Bo, a few others that I know, Jimmy as well. I'm pretty sure there's many others, and if you've ever been in a group where there's only been 1 Headhunter and you've not struggled, you've done it really well, really quick, not a drama, that's because you have a really, really, really good Headhunter. Essentially, if you're going to do 1 Headhunter, they cannot miss. They must maintain maximum stats pretty much the whole time. And then you're good to go. Alright, now that that's out of the way, just to slightly backtrack. At the start of this, you might notice none of us left the door. We all waited until we killed that Chunga. The Chunga will drop a key, the Key Tank picks that key up and does Key Tank stuff. Stagger Tank at this point is basically useless. Your DPS right, this is the door you look at. This is it. This is all you do, you stare at this door. And try to survive, don't die. I'm actually testing out a Heartbreaker build here, so my play is flawed. And that is essentially it. I'm going to do some hot swapping as well, because yeah, when you are doing front right or front left DPS, you are on your own. There is a healer running around, but you have no initial mechanics to actually do. You guard the door. That's it. It's kind of boring, but if you're in a group that's willing to help you and you're new to raids, I'm sad to say, until you know what you're doing, which loads of people are happy to help with, yeah, you're stuck staring at a door. Even if you are a really good sniper out in like the open world but never done a raid before, you probably won't get away with trying to do headhunter. Yeah, sadly, this is life. There are two things you need to be wary of. Okay, one of them is, as the mechanic progresses, which I'm not going to get into for this video, all you need to worry about is the door. As the mechanic progresses, you will hear your teammates call middle. All you then do is, if you can really get a look at it, well, I'm going there now, I believe. Oh God, it's been so long since I recorded this video. Yeah, there will be, it's like an underpass. Essentially, on the train side, so where that big ass train is, in the middle of it, there is like an underpass, concrete bunker, whatever you want to call it. When you get told middle, you go in there. Now, different groups do it different ways. We say in, or out. There is a crack in the floor, and there's water on one side and concrete on the other. You stay on the concrete side until you're told in. And then you get out of the water when you're told out. Call me crazy, but one thing that really bothers me in this game is people that go into the water too soon. Like, I've actually been known to become very temperamental, become the real grumpy dog. For me, it's so simple. I do apologise, but for me, it's simple. You get in when you're told to get in, and you get out when you're told to get out. Like, there's nothing more complicated to it than that. The reason you do this is during the phase in which you have to get in or out of this bunker, or towards the middle, however you want to look at it, mortars will start spawning a lot more frequently, and if you get in too early, the rate in which those mortars fire basically double. You get like 6 mortars every 2 seconds or something, which is mental. And because you're all grouped together in a very small area, this is a very good way to wipe your entire team. So here we are, we're all going to the middle. Now the first one is actually free. You can go into the water. This is the first time we're going here. You can just about see the crack on the ground. So the first one's free. It doesn't actually matter. But you will hear a cue as well as when you're meant to get in. You'll just hear like a thump, 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 thump with a bunch of mortars. There's also a visual cue as well, which I'm hoping I've recorded properly and you will be able to see. So here's the actual final boss, Morozova. It's alright, we actually strip her naked, it's fun. See, yeah, okay, I'm not going to show it. So I'll have to keep waffling and show it to you the second time. Now, each phase you do this, so that's phase 1. There are 4 phases in total. Each phase you do this, it gets a little bit more difficult. Phase 1 is there's mortars, there's snipers, there's enemies. Phase 2, there's mortars, there's snipers, there's enemies, and there's also Morozova. A good stagger tank will remove Morozova from the equation. She won't move, she will be locked in position and not move. Which, if we backtrack again, when I said there's 2 things for you to worry about, the second one is Morozova. If you, on occasion, even if you have the best stagger tank in the world, Morozova just might decide, screw this, I'm going for a wander. And she will just pick someone randomly to be very mad at. If she picks you, you need to get away from her. If that means abandoning your door, you abandon your door. 2 reasons. She does a lot of damage and can very easily wipe a team. 2, if too many people group up around her at the same time, she will shock and disrupt them. At which point you're now subject to shotgunners, snipers, who will both pretty much one-shot you. The mortars, which are absolutely amazing and fun. There's just a million ways in which she can actually kill you. The other reason as well, as you can see along the top, health bar. She is essentially the timer for the event. Once you've done a certain amount of damage, she will force the next stage of this raid boss. So if you do too much damage to her and you shoot her back and you do a silly amount of damage, because she's not the tankiest thing ever, she's pretty, I'm not going to say squishy, but she's about average for a boss. But she is literally the timer, so if you do too much, you can screw over the entire, this phase of the raid. While we're here, and I'm basically doing the same thing on repeat, because I don't know about you guys, but yeah, it's not the greatest thing in the world, is it, running front DPS, but I'm afraid to say this is what you will be subject to, like I've said like 3 times. I do apologise. But one thing to help you out, if you notice, you might see that weird grid square. That is the healer's hive, helping me out, helping me stay alive, because if I let a flood of ads come through, we're all screwed, especially those shotgunners. How to get that grid square? I don't know for console, I play on PC, but go into your settings, gameplay, and then it's either gameplay or accessibility. You basically should find the colorblind option. Set it to Tritanopia, which is ironic because I actually have Tritanopia. Visually, for me, nothing actually changes because my vision is that friggin' screwed. However, things like mortars, grenades, hives will project this grid square to make it easier for you to see. When a lot of things are happening at the same time, it does kind of get annoying and confusing because there's just these grid squares everywhere. But it does help out, particularly in this phase with the mortars. There's a mortar coming in right now. It literally shows you the range, which is a very handy thing to run. Now, saying that, that's also just reminded me, perfect glass cannon. I have been known to run perfect glass cannon in the raid, glass cannon in general. Unless you know what you're absolutely doing, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're new to the raid, honestly, go for your standard DPS setup. I'll give you some examples at the end. Go for your average DPS setup, but just swap the chest talent to unbreakable. It's less for you to worry about. It doesn't really matter if you're doing a little bit less DPS because there's 7 other people with you, and it's just one less thing for you to worry about, and you are one less thing for the team to worry about. And yet again, I talked over the friggin' visual cue of what I was trying to point out of how you know when or when not to get into the water. It's at this point I feel like I should probably again suggest Kaiser and Pause. Their links are in the description below. They do a wonderful walkthrough, no talk through of this. Mine's a little bit more in depth, but they basically show the exact same thing from a different perspective with different roles and different builds, sort of 2 at a time. So it will show Kaiser and Pause both playing at the same time, and hopefully you'll be able to see just a little bit more in depth of what is going on, rather than having me ramble over it, trying to find things to say, because this is the 3rd time I've still stared at this door and I'm kind of bored of it. Just end up playing not jokes. Alright, I'm just going to speed this up because it gets done a lot quicker. So yeah, just still guarding the door. One thing to mention as well, on phase 3 there are what we call lasers. They're not actually lasers, they're sort of miniguns. You can see them just about shooting, video's going too fast, but at the side of the train. These will melt you, even if you have the tankiest build known to man. These will absolutely let you know who's their bitch, and it's you. You can stop them by hiding in cover or shooting them, as you just saw there. This will just turn them off periodically. That's it. It will come back in about 20 seconds with a vengeance, finding someone else to absolutely spam. So, 3rd phase complete. I'll go through the phasing another time when I've got a different video setup build for you guys to see it, but just for DPS, the reason I'm doing it first is because a lot of new players don't know how to do it, and when you get into doing the raid, you will just be put on DPS role and be mortared and grenaded and then spammed with a shotgun. Right, so once the event on the train is complete, we damage Morozova. This will be at the end of the 2nd, 3rd, and then the 4th phase she dies. Once she's told to sod off and go back to her little hut, there'll either be a visual cue or a sound cue. The visual cue is those missiles right there before I got mortared. I'm not sure if you saw that. Hold on. These little turrets right here, firing. Ready? And that's when you get in. And then you get out when the mortars stop falling. The minigun will still be going off, but the healer and the tanks will have you covered for that. And then you just beeline straight back to your little door. It's so exciting. Like, honestly, I can't express to you how exciting it is. Right, and we're just going to speed this up again and hopefully get it done a bit quicker. Because, like I said, it's so entertaining being front DPS. And I'm aware I'm absolutely not selling this, but I'm being honest with you, okay? One of the main reasons when I got into raiding, why I really, really wanted to learn new roles, is simply because this was boring. Doing rockets is probably the most interactive role. Key tank is basically a game of fetch. Stagger tank, you're essentially doing the same thing, apart from you're just facing the boss. It's just you and the boss, and you need to keep her occupied. And when she tries to do her group wipe thing, you've got to stagger her so that she doesn't do her group wipe thing. Yeah, this is kind of dull. I really wish I could get some Headhunter footage and maybe show Headhunter and how to do Headhunter for this, but I would have to beg my clan leader to organise a raid with some of his more knowledgeable groups and yoink some footage and then like kiss his little toe or something. Yeah, right. Anyway, the train has been destroyed. It's all smoky. You can see the second health bar is gone. So all we do now is we wait for the stagger tank. It is ready. She just went down, so she's ready. If you go down, you're ready. It's the new rule. And then we just have to crack the boss, as we call it, which is basically just hit her to that current threshold. When she does this, she'll scream and moan and cry and go immune. And again, this one is free. We can actually just get into the water. We don't actually have to stand here like lemons, but we're doing it anyway because it's good practice. One thing you will note is a lot of people, even though some of the first and second one in and out of the water is free, technically, you don't get any punishment for doing it. We like to stay with the in, out crap throughout, just because you'll be surprised how many times people just forget or it just slips their mind. And after that, all we do is we kill the boss. And when she's dead, which we can normally one-shot her, I'm blaming Doctor. Doctor missed. And yeah, job done. There will be a rocket somewhere, which after she does her weird little screamy animation, the turret on the train will start to lift up and you'll see a round come out, and that's when we fire the missile at it. We then get this lovely cutscene, and that is literally the raid complete as a DPS. Ta-da! The key I was on about will drop in one of these lovely little loot pools. Ta-da! And the chest for Ravenous, if you are so lucky, is in the hut directly ahead of me, just in here. There's a chest on the right hand side. Anyway, as you can see, I did not get Ravenous. Just to potentially help you guys out, I'm going to share some DPS setups that I used throughout this raid that you have seen personally, and others that I use under different circumstances, and we can hopefully give you an idea if you're wanting to get into raids of what you should try and build for. So first off, just because Heartbreaker is the new big shiny thing, we have Kingbreaker, running Gunner, by the way. Typically you would want Demolitionist, but I like running Gunner for the armor regen, as well as the ammo restock thing, which goes across the entire team. Especially if you are doing more of a solo area, it just helps you stay alive getting those kills. So, Kingbreaker as your main weapon. This is really, really powerful and definitely helps out. I think it's currently like the top tier weapon, like point blank across the board at the moment in terms of ARs. Sleipnir, this is brilliant for Chunga and boss burn. As you can see, I practice what I preach. health damage on the LMG. Regulus, I have one, so I'm going to use it. I'm not running an exotic weapon, so I can. Heartbreaker, I've got crit damage and a crit chance mod. Close to chest, crit chance, crit damage, and then obviously a crit chance mod. You do not want to use the chest in the raid. A lot of the time you need your damage here, now. Haven't got time to build up your 100 stacks. You need your damage immediately. So going with a chest with a multiplier on it is better. Cheska backpack with vigilance, crit chance, crit damage, and obviously the remaining 3 pieces of Heartbreaker all have crit damage on them. Up next is my Shooty Build. This is a Pestilence build, and regardless of various videos I've seen recently, this is still currently the hardest hitting, highest DPS and lowest time to kill Pestilence build in the game. You don't go for headshot. If you can maintain headshots on an LMG at about 100 meters, then you shouldn't be playing this game. You should be joining the actual frigging army. So, Pestilence, absolutely brilliant for boss burn, as even during reload you're able to do damage. Carbine 7, that's the one. Very, very good and stable weapon. I'm also running Orbit just because it just helps me out a little bit with overall damage overlap. Walker and Harris Mask with crit chance and crit damage on 5% weapon damage. Buffs Pestilence directly with Plague of the Outcasts. Petrol Defense Chest with Glass Cannon. I don't actually recommend running Glass Cannon in a raid unless you know what you're doing. Contractor's Gloves, Grupo Holster, Cheska Backpack with crit chance, crit damage, and obviously Sawyer's Knees, because Pestilence plus Sawyer's Knees is just silly damage. It's honestly silly damage. Kind of getting a look at all of my builds going on here and sort of umming and ahhing on what's actually good and not. Scorpio build can be useful for boss 4 if you need to lock down the doors. Once you get good at the raid and you're wanting to progress your DPS a little bit, I don't recommend Artist Tool. Go for the M1A. I just like messing around with this weapon. But this is pretty much your most optimal DPS setup in the raid. You can near enough one-shot everything. I am using Walker and Harris gloves for the 2-piece Walker and Harris damage to armor. Yes, I'm aware contractors exist. The reason I'm using Walker and Harris is my aim sucks, so I need that extra weapon handling roll so that I don't die on repeat and I can actually hit stuff. If you can aim better than me, contractors, because it does work out as more damage. I'm losing I think like 1.16% damage using Walker and Harris gloves, but it's all weapon handling and headshot rolls, so it's pretty damn easy to get along. Going for your standard DPS roll, if you want to keep roughly at range, I would recommend for boss 2 and boss 3 depending on your positioning. Potentially also boss 1 if you're staying back a little bit. This works out really well using Pristine Example for perfect focus. Other than that, it's your basic DPS setup. 3-piece Providence, I'm running Grupo instead of 3-piece. Dodge City Holster, Fox's Prayer. And then your blanket DPS setup is pretty much the exact same thing, but as you can see with mine, I am running Perfect Glass Cannon. M1A just because it's absolutely brilliant for boss burn. 3-piece Providence, 1 Grupo. You don't need to worry too much about damage to armor due to all the buffs going on. This will override it. 1 exotic as well. Either go for Coyotes, you need 3 for medium, short and long range buff. Everyone else I would suggest run this, just because if you are getting swarmed or overrun or need to do a very large hit immediately, nothing says go away quite like a Dodge City holster. It's brilliant. Adding in Dodge City with Regulus is sort of, hey, you see that crowd of enemies over there? What crowd? Ha 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 ha. Yeah, really bad jokes. And just to show as well, the build I ran in boss 3 is this. It does look like a typical skill build setup. However, if you notice, I've got an awful lot of reds on it, and the holster is Cheska, which is interesting apparently. What makes me laugh is so many people, whenever they've seen me use this build, it's like, oh my god, what build is that? It's amazing. I posted a video about this build and it got downvoted into the ground, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, now everyone wants this build. It's all skill damage, crit chance, crit damage. I'm at 54% crit chance and 128% crit damage. I am over like your base standard normal skill build. I'm doing 10% less damage on skill damage, but I'm doing 3 times the damage on my capacitor. So overall, this is the highest damaging skill build in the game at the moment. There are alternatives to this, running waveform instead of memento, which for a raid would be better because you don't have time to build stacks, and the backpack would be Cheska with calculated or tech support. Can't remember. Anyway, those are the builds I'd suggest. Have fun, good luck, don't die.